Welcome to the Private Practice Alchemy video podcast series, where I help you work smarter and earn more in your ideal therapy practice. I'm your alchemist and host, Jennifer Kennett. My guest today is Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler. Barbara is a successful private practice owner and therapist in Littleton, Colorado. She uses Emdr to guide her clients through challenging life transitions. Today, we're talking about epic fails and radical self-acceptance, how to let go of the super therapist cape in private practice. So welcome back to Private Practice Alchemy, and I am excited today. We are going to be talking about epic fails and radical self-care, learning how to hang up the super cape hero in private practice. And my guest today is Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler from Littleton, Colorado. And she is setting a new standard for how to view self-care failures and impossible to maintain standards. She has a background in over 10 years experience as a trauma-focused therapist, and she has systems that steer her clear from burnout and instead keeps her fueled with passion and enthusiasm for the work she does. So I am very excited to be talking to her about how we can set up those systems as well. So welcome, Barbara.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it, Jennifer.
You're welcome. So tell me a little bit about what brought you to private practice in the first place? Kind of what made you decide to take the plunge?
It was a slow process, and it began first. I'm very family focused, and it began by I was missing my family so much. I was missing important events because my hours were from 10 to 9 with the drive and everything. It was horrible hours. And so I was at an agency. And so number one, I really missed my family. Number two, I was crying, going to work and going back from work. And then number three, I billed out somebody at $90 whole dollars. And out of that, I was getting paid 15. And it occurred to me, I was doing like the work for that client. And that's when I thought, brilliant idea. I could go earn $15 at Starbucks while I build my private practice. So I was like, what have I got to lose? And that was what turned me. It was like family, values, and finances helped me move.
Yeah. And it's interesting how often, I mean, actually, I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, but the entrepreneurial seizure, where the technician, like you and I, really good at what we do, realize that we're making money for somebody else when we could be doing it ourselves. And there's some great enthusiasm and drive in that, but there's also some real epic fails in that piece, because most of us as technicians think, if I'm good at the technical work, I can run a practice or a business doing the technical work without realizing the business is a part of the work.
Indeed. Indeed, which is our conversation.
Exactly. So I would love to jump into, what are some of the mistakes that stand out for you that you look back on and go, yeah, that was an epic fail, and I'm so glad that happened?
Both are true. Both are 100% true. So I'm so glad it happened, because one of the systems I have in place is it's not failure. If I learned something, it's just a learning point. So one of my biggest ones was coming from fear-based. So I had little to no money to invest in my business, and I designed my own website on a not popular Google search platform, I should say. And all I put in there was, I'm really good. I'm really educated. I got straight A's. It was me. Please hire me. It was so desperate. So, how many phone calls did I get? Zero, zilch, none. For 6 weeks, I waited patiently by the phone. I kept checking and checking. And then it dropped in. It's like, oh, I have missed the mark. So I got a little bit of education about what makes content good on a website. I hired someone. And so I realized that epic fail was invest my time and money wisely to get that outcome that I desire. And that was a sort of a funny epic fail, because it also shifted my mindset, if you will, into, I really want to do this. This isn't a hobby. I really want this, and I really think I could be good at it. So I asked my friends and colleagues, how do you view me? And they helped me fill in some content. So that's my biggest epic fail, but I've got more. Do you want, do you
I
want more?
I want to know more. And I love what you're pointing out is that we so often come initially from a place of fear of, am I going to be good enough? Am I going to get paid enough? Can I be successful at this? And all of those fears and doubts pile up and get in the way of us actually being present for communicating with our ideal client. And so learning how to sort of sift through that and sweep it aside is such an important learning piece.
It was really quite pivotal, because from that, my next epic fail was, now people called me. I was like, oh my gosh. And and I said yes to every single person that called me. Now, where's the fail in that? It was a wrong fit client, 100%.
Absolutely. Yep.
Epic fail number 2, learning moment number 2 is say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. So say yes when it's a good fit. Because when I said yes, when I really should have, or, it would have been better for me to say no, then I would have referred the client on, created a rapport and relationship with one of my colleagues, and I would have had room to say yes to the right yes.
Absolutely.
But instead, I said yes out of fear. Nobody else is going to call me. Oh my gosh, they're willing to pay me money. It was all very, I know, very rushed and very fear-based. And it was a struggle too. And happily, that particular person just went away, I guess, satisfied enough, but they could have written bad reviews about me. They could have, yeah, you got that?
Absolutely. I know that some of those mismatches that I said yes to early,
Nice.
I worked so hard for so little success. And I went, it was sort of that, what am I doing wrong? And it was like, oh, I'm the wrong therapist for this person.
Yes.
And the kindest thing I can do is recognize when that fit isn't there. And as a more seasoned professional, I've actually developed really good relationships with colleagues because I'm willing to say, well, okay, what is it specifically you do? And when I find those clients, I'm like, this is the therapist you should be working with. Not here's 3 or 4 people, but I know this person is going to meet your need, even though I can't. And those clients actually are more likely to refer somebody on to me because they feel that trust as well.
100%. That's happened to me more times than I can say. And then double bonus, the people that I refer to, they know me really well, and then they refer back to me when it's a good fit for me.
Exactly.
So it's a win-win-win all around. So that was a hard pill to swallow too.
Yeah. And it really, it's shifting into that abundance mindset that there are enough clients for everybody, and the right clients will come along as long as you are able to stand in your truth and say, this is who I am. This is who I serve.
Absolutely. And that was a figuring out thing though. In the beginning, it was figuring things out, and owning it and remembering it. So that was, and for those earlier clients, still to this day, over 10 years later, I really say thank you because they were teaching me about me. And so I honestly do hold them in the highest of regard. And I appreciate that they were part of my path. So those were 2 big ones. And then a third one. Can I go on?
Absolutely.
Okay, where is my superhero cape? I actually have a purple cape. I do.
I love it.
I do. I have a purple cape, and I got it from another program, but it's like, oh yeah. So in the beginning, I thought I could do everything for everybody all the time. All the time. I barely said no, because one of the things is there's so many things to say yes to. A luncheon, a networking, a speaking opportunity, a new client, a class, my family. Oh yeah, my family, my kids. There's so much to say yes to. And I said yes all the time. And it was very empty, shallow. Like for a while I felt robust, but slowly but surely it was very bitter and resentful.
Yeah.
And I hoped nobody could tell, but I could. And
Yes.
so even though all of my phenomenal graduate program professors said, don't do it all, self-care is important. I was like, well, no, I've never really done self-care quite before, and I've been fine. It's like, what is self-care? What is self-care? So so
Self-care is a job well done.
I know you can even you can hear me faltering, like, what is self-care? And I'm figuring it out a little bit, but that was a third learning pivotal point to have the energy and sustain going forward all these years later. So that was a third one, is the do-it-all syndrome. And I can, sure.
And the other piece that I have really been leaning into in the last few years is, I read Brene Brown talking about we can trust people who say no. We can trust their yeses more.
Yeah.
And I realized that about myself. I trust myself better when I've said no. I can trust the yeses are actually coming from not from a place of fear or not being enough, but from a place of, this is where I should be focusing my time and energy. This is the best use of my physical, emotional, intellectual energy.
And so true. I'm learning about myself each step of the way. So one of the things that I check into is my presence. How embodied am I feeling? Where are my thoughts? Basically, two questions. Barbara, when you think about this, are you happy? Are you excited? And if I'm not happy and excited, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
The other thing that, and the phrasing of this, the first time I heard it, completely threw me for a loop.
What's
but
that?
I had somebody say to me, how often are you taking clients to bed with you? And I went, what?
Huh?
Like, and it was like, how often are you lying in bed thinking about your clients? Because they've climbed into bed with you at that point. And I was like, ew. Oh.
Yes.
But it was a really useful way to think about it. Like, if I am not able to leave my clients in my office and outside of my bedroom, there's a problem.
There is a problem, and it's not with the client, is it?
Right. It's not the client at all.
Oh, darn.
They're doing themselves fine, but I'm not setting the boundaries. So
not setting that boundary. That was one of my I would have dreams and nightmares and not feel rested when I woke up.
Yeah.
And part of my self-care now is, at the end of the day, I have a ritual to begin my day, and I have a ritual to end my day. And when I leave this room, I change. I physically change my clothes, and I'm like, now I am, Barbara, not therapist person. Not that I'm ever not, but I just get to be Barbara.
You get to take off that particular coat and put on, this is who I am as a human being. This is who I am with my family.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I do. And so I ritualize in and I ritualize out, like my aromatherapy, my candle, my comfortable chair, and then I close it out at the end. And so my day is bookended with a beginning and an end. It used to be the drive, but these days I don't have a drive.
Yeah, so. None of us do. Well, I suppose some of us still do, but it's not as far, not as many people are doing that. Drive to the office and back. But I like that. I like the idea of setting those boundaries and setting the intentions when you walk into your office and when you leave your office. Because again, as a newer therapist, I see so many people struggling with, how do I set the boundaries and limits on my time?
And I learned that, I discerned that. What is my capacity? And it has grown. In the beginning, I was like, 3 clients. Oh my gosh. And now it's like, okay, 3 clients before noon and,
go.
On to the next. So, I grew in capacity, but I did need to discern that. And that's part of learning from perceived failures or mistakes, is to learn. And if you learned something, then there you go. So it's who said it? There's a quote I'm trying to remember. Try, fail, fail again, fail better. That
Right.
idea of doing it better next time.
Yeah.
That's all.
Failing forward is another way I've heard it
Ah,
termed.
that's simpler. That's much simpler. And so I think that has led to my, um, as a trauma-focused EMDR person, I hear a lot of stuff like I'm sure you do. And when I speak with newer colleagues, we talk about, how to let go of the glob, what glob's on, what's yours, what's theirs, what's your activation to go take care of, what's theirs to just witness and give away.
Yeah.
So that does take practice too. Yeah.
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 And I, the other thing I've been thinking about in terms of the saying yes when you mean no, and even accepting clients that we probably shouldn't accept, is in graduate school, we are so focused on our learning edge. I want to get all of these tools and strategies under my belt. So we go into private practice and we think, oh, I'm going to take on all of the clients that I haven't worked with before because I want to grow my learning edge. And yet, as a seasoned professional, I've really learned that, yes, I have a growing edge, but putting all of my effort there is actually a recipe for disaster. That being in my zone of genius, so to speak, working with clients that I really do good work with, actually makes it easier for me to step into that learning edge in those moments where I do want to go beyond what I currently know.
And is that because you're feeling fueled up? What? Yeah.
It's because I feel fueled up. It solidifies that foundation of I'm solid. I know what I'm doing, and I can lean out into that learning edge on those moments and go, oh, that's what it feels like. But it's sort of, it's sort of like the 1-year-old child who in the stranger situation where they start on their home base and they go and explore and then they come back to home base. Well, that's our primary pattern. Yes. So the idea that we're going to hurl off into the unknown, what I've noticed for most people is when they hurl themselves into the unknown too far, they just go right back into the safety zone and they don't actually want to keep learning. The learning zone requires that foundation of I'm good at this and I'm learning, rather than let's throw myself into what I'm not good at.
I see what you're saying. That was said so well. And I see myself having followed that pattern, but I had not thought of it in those terms. I definitely see that. When I feel confident to go out, and then I'm confident, and then I go out. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So this is where our mistakes can inspire us to even lean out when we get really strong and connected with where our, what did you call it? Your genius zone?
Zone of genius.
Zone of genius. It's fabulous. Zone of genius. And then I can venture out and go back in.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm letting that sink in over here. Nice.
So I'm curious. I mean, I hear there's you definitely have identified some real learning opportunities, those epic fails. But what were some of the challenges that you came across on being in private practice that maybe were surprising, or looking back, you're like, was it kind of an obvious thing to do, but I'm still glad I learned that?
Well, and I continue to learn, to be like, I am continuing to learn. So one of the challenges, one of the things I had to get over was to ask for help. I had to get over that, because remember that superhero syndrome that I was, my purple cape, right? So I had to get over that and be humble and confident to ask for help. And when I didn't know what I wanted, to be humble and confident to say, I don't know what I want, but it looks like that. Do you know? Right. So that was one of the biggest ones for me, is to ask, because I tend to be the helper in situations and not the person who is seeking help. Yeah.
You mentioned that you had somebody help with your website. What were other big areas in your business that you realized having that opportunity to ask for help made a huge difference?
Professional photography, believe it or not. Like a professional photo speaks volumes. And I've had more clients than I can count that say, your face, like your picture, and reminded me of, or showed me, or I felt that. So a professional photograph was surprising when I think about that. And then the other things that I hired in or is a mentor, although not really hired in, but I found a person to mentor me along the way. And believe it or not, also, call me weird or not, I had a feng shui expert come to my office and feng shui my office because it just didn't feel right and I couldn't figure it out. So I'm a very simple practitioner. I'm about to change things up in 2021. I don't sell products. I don't do things yet, but what's happening is I imagine 2021 is I have different portals, like simplify things, let your clients schedule their own appointments if you're comfortable with that.
Right.
Things like that. So getting help along the way was the biggest thing, my biggest challenge to overcome.
Yeah, I must admit the first couple of years there was that wonderful twinning of I don't have the money and I don't want to appear to be inadequate, and so asking for coaching help, how do I build my business, how do I create systems, was really scary. And yet the moment that I opened the door to getting that mentorship, that coaching, my business got stronger and more successful.
Indeed, it really, really did. So it did happen for me that way too, Jennifer. Boy, I forgot about that. That feels like so long ago now, because now I'm like, I need help. I need help. Oh, I'm like, I am so comfortable saying, I don't know that. Help me understand.
Exactly.
Or I want to do what you do. How did you do that?
Yeah.
So I'm very ready to do that now.
Yeah, and one of the things I think really was a good indicator for me is I'd go to the free or low cost trainings that people were offering, and I'd come away going, that was it. And I realized I needed a different level than I was getting at those sort of introductory pieces. And that was the point where I went, okay, I need to actually get help for my business, not just for business. And that was a huge shift, and that was a point where I was willing to say yes to hiring somebody to help more directly.
And it benefited you. You got what you wanted, you imagined. Yeah.
Exactly.
So going back to my epic fail about the website, budget my money wisely. I'm on certain search engines that I didn't want to have to compete with. They are always going to rank top 3. So I give them my money and they advertise for me. I struggled with that for a minute because when you are working with very, very, very little money, I spent it very mindfully. And so it pays off, though. It really pays off when you spend it wisely.
I remember somebody saying this to me as a rule of thumb, and it took a while for me to wrap my head around. He said, you should probably assume you're going to be spending 10 to 20% of your revenue on marketing. I went, okay. And they said, so if you want to be making $150,000, you need to be marketing as if you're making $150,000.
Brilliant.
And I was like, okay.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because now we can look at our budget and market budget accordingly. Brilliant.
And I think that part of the scary part is when you're not yet at that level you want to be at, the idea of spending more than that 10 to 20% feels scary, but it's the best way to grow. And this is where, again, my learning was really getting targeted on using Google AdWords when I was wanting to grow, because 95% of my clients were coming from searching for therapy. They weren't coming from Facebook. They weren't coming from the networking I was doing with non-therapy business owners. It was online. And so I should be putting the money where they were.
Where you get and how long did it take for you to realize that's where they were coming from? So that's where I invest.
It took me longer than it should have. It was probably year 3 that I really started kind of honing in on that. But I also looked at what I was doing in terms of networking and connecting with people as part of my self-care. I realized I loved doing that. And I was wanting to put my energy there, even though it wasn't necessarily giving as high a return on investment. And I had the energy to do it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I actually sat down and started looking at what are my key performance indicators and where are people coming from.
And that's important. I remember for the first 3 to 4 years, I also didn't look at how did you find my name? That's on my intake. And I didn't look at it.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, this is important information. And lo and behold, it's like, okay, it's coming from where I thought it was coming from. I'll keep that going forward. But that could have been a tweak for me if it wasn't.
Yeah.
So it's important if you're putting out that information, use the data points, and then help it improve your business.
Well, yes. I mean, that's a key thing is if you're going to collect data, you actually have to look at it. Don't collect it for the sake of saying, well, it's there.
But I'm a therapist. It's like, no, this was important to me. I am an entrepreneur business owner who happens to be a therapist.
Yeah.
Because if I don't keep that strong, I can't get to do this. So that was a shift as well, that mindset about I'm a business owner who happens to be a therapist.
And I think that what I see is when people are like, I'm a therapist who happens to have a business, the therapy becomes the priority and the business becomes an area of resentment. I shouldn't have to do all of this stuff to be able to do this. And it's like, whoo, that's an irrational belief that if I could ever say.
Yeah.
Yes, this is crucial to doing the work that we love to do. And if we don't love this part of it, it's going to block us from doing the therapeutic work.
It really is. And once I took that in as truth, the resentment, the anger, the I don't want to, it went away because I was like, oh, if I do this, I get to do that. So it was a lovely opening up as opposed to resentment and bitterness. So it's good. It's all good. But I'm ready to hire someone to do all that stuff now so I can. That's where I am.
Yeah. And I think that's an exciting place to be able to say, there's a lot of the day-to-day administration that I don't want to do.
Yes.
I can do it now. I know how to do it. I know some good practices for it, but I'm going to hand it off. I'm going to oversee that rather than be in the middle of it.
Me too. And that feels good. But I couldn't have gotten here unless I did all of that other work to get me here, to be a successful and thriving clinician doing what I love to do.
I like to say to new private practice owners, this is going to be the best self-help program you've ever taken.
I feel you there. I feel you there. In unexpected ways, can I add? In unexpected ways.
Exactly.
I didn't know what I didn't know, and I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at some things, which it was a nice surprise.
So another question I have for you is, what do you define success in terms of your private practice? Because I hear a lot of therapists coming into it with some assumptions about what it means to be successful, and I want to maybe break down some of those myths.
I like that question, and I ponder that. And my first instinct is, am I happy? So for me, if I go to sleep at the end of the day feeling satiated and satisfied and maybe proud or maybe excited, or if I begin the day with enthusiasm. So the first thing for me is that excitement and happiness factor. So that's one area that I define success.
Right.
Another area that I define success is how's the money in the bank? Am I taking my vacation time like I want? I'm at a place now where I take 6 weeks vacation a year, and I'd like to up it more. So financially, am I in that balance of personal time and work time? So the numbers play out for that. And then one other area of success is the quality of my relationships. Am I fueling them? Are they fueling me? So you can see I have sort of different ways that I look at success.
Yeah, I like that. And I like it particularly because it really is a felt sense rather than an objective here on a piece of paper. I can define the number of clients I'm seeing in a year. I mean, like I talk to people and like, that's what they're defining success by. And I'm like, is that making you happy? Seems to be an important component of that, because if I'm seeing, 40 clients a week and I'm exhausted and I might be making great money, but my relationships are not successful and I'm resenting my getting into my day. Where's success there? So
right. So I appreciated that question so very much, because I was like, how do I define it? And I was so excited and happy. I was like, oh, that is how I define it. So it's like, I just want to pay homage to my dad, who I think taught me that lesson about how happy are you?
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's funny because if I tilt this up a little bit.
What do you have up there? Do what you love what. I have that in one of my rooms. I have that too.
And that's very much one of my mottos. I mean, it's where I define success. Am I loving what I'm doing, and am I doing what I love?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Very, very, very similar. Very similar. Balance.
And so my last question to you is, if you could sort of provide 2 or 3 tips to therapists who are starting private practice, or who are struggling in private practice even, what are the things that you would really recommend that they focus on for getting to that place of greater contentment and success?
2 or 3 things. So I've had this conversation in my own head. If you're a new clinician and you imagine like your full and thriving private practice, that again, you have enthusiasm and passion about going to, you have a great network of colleagues and friends. Imagine that. And then imagine the paperwork that goes with it and the systems that go with it to keep it thriving. Put that system in place right away.
From your lips to God's ears.
Oh, man. So right over there, I have a file cabinet because I've 10 years, right? And I wasn't digital in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I've got to digitize. I want to digitize those. And, I've been wanting to digitize those for about 6 years. So I'm playing catch up with something. And so that would be like have systems that are streamlined in place as if you had the practice of your dreams.
I love that.
Oh, if I could go back in time. And then that means that might imply have a mentor, have a coach who can teach you those things. So you don't have to learn the hard way and have a project that's 6 years old sitting, looking at you every single day, driving you crazy. Just don't do that to yourself. Because there are ways you can do it. You can start small and build big, but start with that in mind. That would be the first biggest thing that if I could have a do-over, I would do that. And then the coach, mentor, and then have connections, have relationships. With our job, my job, I can't go home and tell my husband all about my day. Right. We have a code. He was like, so how was your day? I'm like, it's a Hallmark night. So anybody who knows Hallmark movies knows that everything is solved in 90 minutes. So that's the code. Like, I don't have energy to talk or listen, or I just need a Hallmark night. But boy, oh boy, I've been part of a consultation. I'm in 4 consultation groups, and one of them I've been in for 10 years, since year 1 of private practice. And those are my people. Those are my people I could call at any time. And I had the privilege of listening to Yalam speak live, 6 years ago, maybe now. And his emphasis, what he spoke about is have your consultation group, have your people, because I can talk to those people about situations that I can't at home. Yes. And they get it. So I think relationships and streamline and have a system. Those would be my big things.
I love that. And it's interesting because I would say that, consultation on the clinical side is really important. And I have a small mastermind group that I've been part of now for 2.5, 3 years. And oh my goodness.
Right.
That just being able to bring some of the business challenges to that group and say, how do I do this thing, or this is driving me crazy, or whatever the piece of the business is, and having those it's a small group. I mean, there's only 4 of us, but we talk about that, and we often will say, I can't imagine being as successful as I am without the 3 of you.
That's one of my 4 groups is that mastermind business buddies. Like we want to support each other's businesses. I have one EMDR specific, one general, one masterminding, and then I don't know what we are, but we keep meeting. So I'm like, what did we originally meet for? But I don't know. But I'm not letting go.
My tribe meeting.
That's what it is. I don't know. So I know because I have one every single week. So, but me too. I'm mind, body, spirit. So I take care of each parts of those with my groups that get me.
I love that. Love that. So Barbara, tell me a little bit about what your practice is in Colorado, and how can people reach out to you if they're wanting to work with you?
That's great. Thanks, Jennifer. So it's Barbara Sheehan-Zeidler, and my business is Creative and Caring Counseling. And I
.com?
.com, yes.
Perfect.
.com, yeah, .com. Thank you. And one of my specialties is EMDR, complex trauma. I provide consultation. I have a variety of workshops that I do. I have a polyvagal somatic bend to everything I do. And a friend of mine posed a question: if you were a figurine, a doll figure, what would be your 2 accessories? And I was like, I love that. And one would be a meditation cushion, because I'm very present. One of my things that when I provide consultation is, where are you? Where are you? Like, where are you as you hold that space? So I'm very mindful, present minded, but also polyvagal. So it would be a polyvagal chart and a meditation pillow. So
love that.
Yeah. So like I said, Littleton, Colorado, creativeandcaringcounseling.com.
And do you do EMDR and trauma consultations with clinicians outside of Colorado, or do you? Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Consultation can cross state lines, easy breezy. Yeah. And I do it for people just seeking general consultation. Doesn't have to be EMDR. Maybe you want to learn more about trauma. And then EMDR certification, and EMDR CIT, or consultant in training. So all the way up the ladder. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure there are going to be people listening to this who are like, oh, I want to learn more about those things. And so being able to send them your way is an exciting part of the work that I get to do.
Thank you for inviting me. This was so much fun. That's the other part. Is it fun? Am I happy? Am I excited? Did I have fun?
Yes.
So this was my check off my box for success.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you very much. And I would love to hear from the people listening. What did you think? Feel free to add some comments in the feedback. So thank you very much.
Thanks for joining me today. If you're ready to work smarter and earn more money in your ideal therapy practice, book a 30-minute free coaching call with me. Visit my website at privatepracticealchemy.com and click on the big purple Schedule Time with Me button. And if you're in your first year of private practice, sign up for the next cohort of my 90-day Private Practice Alchemy Accelerator Group. Groups start in January, May, and September. You can register for the next cohort on my website. Thanks for listening.